Okay. Hello, this is Ann Feltz, and this is my English 4601 final exam of spring semester 2026. Moving on to two major concepts that I learned this semester, beginning with nesting narrative. Um, this idea of an author creating a story within a story within a story with incredibly layered and detailed characters, as Chaucer famously achieved in the Canterbury Tales, among other works. However, I feel like this idea is most prevalent in this collection, as the deep-seated layering of these characters that he has from big G, uppercase G, Geoffrey, as the author, to the lowercase G narrator, Geoffrey, to the individual characters such as the Wife of Bath or the Knight, and their individual characters in their tales, such as Emily or the Old Woman. This is a very intriguing method of storytelling to learn about and to understand better. And I was very thankful for that opportunity. Moving on to the second main concept I learned this semester, or rather, I feel like I improved on this concept, which is of close reading. Throughout the semester, I've had the opportunity to deepen my understanding of the text by a careful close reading, which has improved my ability to identify underlying details, connect ideas, and discern purpose within the text. And overall, I feel like each semester I'm able to develop the skill more deeply, which is an opportunity for which I'm very grateful. Moving on, the most difficult aspect of this course, for me, this was time management. As this semester was incredibly busy with a heavier class load, increased responsibilities in my dance ministry, and some family issues that were going on. Therefore, managing my time effectively proved very difficult for me in all of my courses, and especially those that required a close reading. However, with the conclusion of one class that was much earlier than I expected, managing my time became much easier, and I was able to focus my time more on reading, composing, and processing my assignments in these more intense classes, which I deeply appreciated. So I felt I was better able to perform and give better responses overall. Moving on to how much I studied during this course, for the reading assignments each week, I would attempt to devote at least an hour to reading and taking notes prior to our team's discussions. Moreover, I would devote an additional hour to 2 hours reviewing the readings and my notes from the team sessions, along with composing my responses each week. On another note, I spent at least 3 hours reviewing my selected texts, notes, and writing my mandatory rough draft. Following that, I spent at least 2 hours revising and reviewing my final major paper draft prior to submitting it. Therefore, I feel like I spent at least 2 to 3 hours studying for this course per week, along with the additional 5 hours spent collectively on my mandatory rough draft and final major paper draft. Moving on to a learning surprise. One specific learning surprise that found me this semester was how truly variable Chaucer was in his works, yet he always maintained a clear message in each, from the bawdy nature of the Merchant's Tale to the high echelon of romance. From the Knight's Tale, Chaucer manages to relay his message of equal censure, for example, raising women to the equal of men in both virtue and law. As we discussed, Chaucer elevated women to an equal status with men as in his feminist ideals, but that meant that women were treated as human beings. So they had virtues and they had flaws, for they were all imperfect, which I found very interesting and so very surprising in a medieval text. Finally, to conclude with final comments, overall, I have deeply enjoyed the opportunity to focus on the prolific works of Geoffrey Chaucer and to learn about his significant impact on how we speak, learn, and comprehend literature today. Moreover, I sincerely appreciated the team's meetings, as always, each Tuesday, as they always help to inform my understanding, develop contextual ideas, and present the material in an intriguing manner that always makes me want to learn more about what we're talking about. I also look forward to exploring literature further in future classes through Chaucer's lens and understanding, which has already improved my learning experience in other literature courses. Thank you so much for viewing my final exam, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Goodbye.